suddenly dishwashers seem to be enemy number one. The Department of Energy recently announced that it would be proposing a new rule, Mr. President, to regulate the amount of water and the amount of energy used by dishwashing machines nationwide. Now, under the proposed rule, I want to describe it fairly. Under the proposed rule, dishwashers will only be able to use 3.2 gallons of water per cycle. Right now, the rule allows, though dishwashers don't use as much, but the rule allows a dishwasher to use 5 gallons of water per cycle. No person with a brain above a single-celled organism has asked for this change, Mr. President. No reasonable circumstance demands it. Instead, the Department of Energy and President Biden's administration has hearkened to the extreme climate activists who, frankly, we have learned from bitter experience, will find any reason to micromanage the lives of Americans by force, if necessary. Let me give you a case in point. Most American dishwashers already use less than 5 gallons of water that is allowed under current regulations. In fact, most American dishwashers use not 5, which is allowed, but 3.5 gallons of water per cycle. Why? Because the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, gave its, quote, Energy Star Standard seal of approval to any dishwasher that'll use 3.5 gallons or less. So even though a dishwasher can use up to 5, to get the seal of approval, which most dishwashers have and most manufacturers want, you have to use 3.5 or less. Now, despite being EPA approved, the Department of Energy's new rule will force manufacturers to abandon these efficient designs that we're already using to placate people who arbitrarily want not 3.5, but 3.2 gallons of water per cycle. And you may be thinking, Mr. President, okay, well, we will save 3 gallons per cycle. We will not. President Obama, I want to sidetrack a moment, but this is relevant. During President Obama's administration, his regulators imposed a similar restriction. The results were disastrous. His rule was adopted in 2012, some may recall, increased the price of dishwashers by $100. That's $100 in 2012 dollars. It's more today. In exchange for those higher prices, the regulation that President Obama promulgated forced Americans to buy machines that don't wash their dishes nearly as well as the older machines, and that will prove the case with this new rule that is being promulgated by the Department of Energy. Now, if you have one of these dishwashers, not the ones yet to be approved by the Department of Energy, but the ones mandated under President Obama, you know how it goes. You have to pre-wash the dishes. I mean, it defeats the whole purpose of a dishwasher. If you don't pre-wash the dishes, half the gravy's still going to be on the plate after the first run. And so that leaves families with a choice. You can run the dishwasher twice, which uses twice as much water in order to get your dishes clean, or you have to hand wash your dishes, which is going to use about 17 gallons of water. Both of these options, and once again, this is not the new rule yet. We're under President Obama's restrictive but less restrictive rule. Both of these options waste more water than the older washers. Now, the Department of Energy itself admits that 20% of families who own a dishwasher never use it. Why is that? It's not because dishwashing is fun. It's because they don't want to taste last night's jambalaya in their morning Cheerios when these weaker machines don't do their job. So now, instead of having dishwashers use enough water the first time to actually clean dishes, we're going to have even more families opting to use an average of 17 gallons of water per night to wash by hand. Let me restate this. Under President Obama's regulation, which will be made even worse by the proposed regulation by President Biden, if you wash your dishes the first time, they don't get clean. And those of you who use a dishwasher know what I'm talking about. You do save water the first round, but your dishes aren't clean. So you're forced to use the dishwasher a second time, which uses even more water, or you're forced to wash your dishes by hand, which uses 3 times more water. Now, you don't need to be Euclid to see that this does not add up to water savings. And it makes even less sense when you consider the savings in electricity. The Department of Energy's new rule says it'll cut the amount of energy that dishwashers can use by 27%. Shoot, well, I'll be for that. It'll cut the amount of electricity, energy, from 307 kilowatt hours annually to 223 kilowatt hours. That's for a standard dishwasher. The Department of Energy under President Biden says that this will help reduce, quote, carbon pollution, and it's going to save the American people money. In reality, it won't. By decreasing the amount of allowed energy use by 27% under this new proposed rule, the new rule will save 84 kilowatt hours annually. That's fewer kilowatt hours than it takes to run an LED light bulb for a year. We're not talking about serious energy savings. How much will it save the American people? Using the very generous estimates of the Department of Energy, it's going to save Americans about $17 annually every year. That's not even enough for a tank of gas under President Biden's inflation. However, once again, I'll draw a parallel to the so-called water savings. Once again, the lesser performance capacity in these energy-efficient machines is going to result in more Americans choosing to run the machine twice or to hand wash the dishes just to get the plates clean.